Karl Ove Knausgaard is here. His 6-volume autobiographical series, My Struggle, has become a literary event, a literary sensation. Book 4 was released in the United States earlier this year. James Wood wrote in The New Yorker, "There's something ceaselessly compelling about his book. Even when I was bored, I was interested." So I'm pleased to have Karl Ove Knausgaard at this table for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I said to you, have you seen our program? Knowing that we're seen in Norway, you said, I don't watch much television. So what do you do with your time? Are you writing constantly?
I divide my time. I write a lot, and I have 4 children, so that's my life, writing and being with my family.
Are you surprised by what's happened here?
Yeah.
This is your life,
yeah.
As your struggle.
Yeah. I was absolutely shocked when this thing happened. I wrote it completely, innocently, for myself, by myself.
What does that mean, for myself, by myself?
I was sitting in my own room writing about my own life, and I never thought anyone would be interested, not even my friends, And I was embarrassed when I gave it to my editor. Why should he read it, And even the publishing house didn't expect anything, so it was a low print of the first edition, so nobody thought anything would happen,
Now, one out of every 10 people in Norway has read.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like...
what is it?
I have no idea. But it feels like when it takes on here in the US, like it's... there is a certain kind of identification.
That's exact. I was going to say recognition, but identification.
Yeah, there was one woman in San Francisco who said, "How do you manage to write about an Indian American woman? Because that's what you have been doing, Yeah. I said, "No, I haven't. I've written about a Scandinavian middle-aged man." And she said, "No, it's my
Indian American." She said that.
Yeah, she said that.
You were in my soul. You were in my head. You were in my heart.
Yeah, something like that. And I think that has to do with, my experience with this project is I set out to try to find out who am I.
Who you are.
Yes, and that was the project. How did I become the man I am, How did it happen? What is identity? What is it to be someone? And I thought I'd just be as private and intimate as I could, and be as true as I could to myself. And I thought this was
as intimate, meaning revealing as much as you possibly could.
Yes, I'm writing things in there that I haven't said to a single living person, It's been my secrets, but it's in the book. So I thought this was too private and too personal, and I thought there would be no recognition and no identification possible in this book. But it doesn't work like that. It's like, I think we are much, much more alike than we think we are.
And meaning that we have the same hopes, the same fears, the same...
Yeah, and I think in this book I'm writing about how it is to be 17, And I think the feeling of being 17 is the same everywhere, And it's those kind of feelings I'm trying to capture in the book. The presence of the different ages. I'm writing about when I'm 10 and 17.
And it says something about it says something about you, but it also says something about the reader.
Yeah.
Maybe more about the reader than about you. I don't know.
It's interesting because I wrote fiction before, normal fiction, and people could, come over to me and talk about the book. But it was always about the book. It was always about literature. But now people come over, they say one sentence about the book, and then they start to talk about themselves.
Yeah, and how they see themselves in the book.
Yeah, or it's like... I wrote about my father, and he was an alcoholic, and a lot of people come over and talks about the father being an alcoholic. All that kind of things happens all the time, and that's a dream for a writer. That's what a writer really wants to do.
Has it been cathartic?
There.
Cathartic.
For me, writing this.
Yes.
No, it hasn't. I was occupied with making novels out of my own life. I was not interested in... It's not a therapeutic thing for me, and...
You were interested in making a novel out of my own life?
Yeah.
Not in a sense of dealing with my own psyche?
Troubles. No, not at all. No.
But so what is, though, the consequence of doing this, other than being able to publish, compelling reading for people around the world?
The consequences for me personally?
Is it a feeling of success, accomplishment?
It's one major subject in these books are, you know, self-hatred, self-loathing, and that's a big part of my life.
Why?
I think that's one of the things I'm looking for in my writing. Try to figure out.
To answer why.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Why? I mean, I was 40 years old when I started to write this book, and I had, you know.
You were 40.
Yeah, when I started.
Right.
And I had 3 beautiful children. I had a beautiful wife. I had, you know, a house. It was like the Talking Heads song.
Right.
I had all this, but I wasn't happy. And that's one of the 7 deadly sins, you know, not appreciating life. And I didn't. It was like everything was grey. And so why? How did I get there, you know? And that's the question in the book. And
what's the answer?
It's, I think...
Why were you unhappy?
It's like, that's for me now when I wake up in the morning, every morning, I start my day unhappy, you know. And having this success doesn't help at all. It's like, that's just like, well, all those people are mistaken, you know. It's like all this is a lie, all this is something that's not true even. Okay, so it's very hard to take.
For someone who reads the book, will they understand why you were unhappy? Have you accomplished that literary journey?
I think
so. If you wrote this because you were unhappy and you wanted to know why,
yeah.
So you examine your life.
Yeah.
A, do you answer the question why, or do you put it down in a way that viewers who identify it?
Definitely the last thing. I mean, I'm interested in complexity, you know, and I'm not interested in, you know, answers and one-sentence solutions.
But answers aren't complex. I mean, answers are not the obvious. Are not the opposite of complexity. I mean, answers can be complexity itself.
Yeah,
they don't have to be simple. It doesn't.
No.
It's not like you're looking for a silver bullet that explains everything.
No,
you're looking.
But in my experience, it doesn't help to identify your problems. It doesn't help to, you know, say that, okay, my father did this to me, and so on, and kind of diagnose your life. That doesn't help, and it's kind of needless. And this book is the opposite of that. It's kind of trying to show the complexity of everything.
Why this title?
That was really by coincidence. My original title was Argentina, because this is also a book about longing, and that's Argentina is the country of longing for me. I've never been there, but this is this idea. And then I was talking to a friend of mine about Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
And he said, there's your title. And I knew instantly he was right. That's the perfect title for this book. So my editor said, no, we can't do that, because it's a provocation and we don't want to go there. But I insisted and we did it. And I'm very happy we did. I think in Norway...
Why are you happy?
I think because in Norway, if you say Mein Kampf, or my struggle in Norway, people will think of this book instead of, you know, Hitler's Mein Kampf. And this book is the exact opposite of Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. I read it. I had to read it because I used the title. So in the last book, book 6, it's an essay about Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf from 400 pages, where I just describe Hitler's life. It's the only place in the book that's not about me, but it's about Hitler, and that was immensely interesting and a very important part of the book. And I did, you know, move to that place because of the title. So that's the way I work, by intuition, and throw things in, and it leads me somewhere.
Are you fascinated, obsessed, or just professionally curious about Hitler?
I wouldn't say obsessed, but fascinated and interested, yes.
Because of the deeds, of his deeds?
I think
the genocide, or because he had some quality of...
I think the thing is that this thing happened in Europe, in Germany, and it's only, you know, 2 or 3 generations ago. Yeah. And it's such a, if you see it from here, it's just an unbelievable thing. And how could it happen? What was really happening? And I think we define our culture now against what happened there, so it still is important for us. You know, there's a lot of things we can't do or can't think or can't go because of what happened. So I just started to read about him, and I started to read Mein Kampf and to see what kind of book this really is, you know, and what kind of man
what kind of
this
book was it?
It was. It is mostly very, very boring. It's like I don't find a word in English, but it's full of. You don't like the tone. You don't like the book, and the shock is the hate of the Jews in the book, which is kind of, it's just pathological.
Sure.
But he writes very well.
Hatred and scapegoatism.
He writes very well about, you know, commercialism, about ads, about propaganda, about how it is to speech, and to convince people. And he says like this: I can, you know, I can give you all the tricks and I can tell it to you. It doesn't matter, because when I'm speaking, it's so much power in that act, you know, that you don't see the tricks. It's like it's.
Did you see genius in his book?
No. He's a poor writer. You know, he got so bad reviews when the book came out. One was called Mein Kampf, and the other said the end of Hitler's political career. You know, so everybody was laughing at it. You know, at this book. So it's also amazing that he managed to rise up after that and kind of get where he got. So it's a fascinating thing, and you wonder, can it happen again? You know, yes, of course it can happen again.
How much of this is about your father?
The book. He's kind of the major character throughout the book, from the very beginning to the very end. And it was because of his death and his fall I wrote this book. That was one of, you know, the starting points I had. So I wanted to write a book about him and his death. And when I have done that, I just continued to write. But he's the most important character, and it still is, you know.
In your life?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And now he's been dead for many, many years. I still have dreams about him, you know. I had one just a few days ago.
What did he say to you in the dream?
He didn't say anything. He was just there.
Character.
Yeah. I realized when I wrote my first book, I was 29, and I just wrote it, you know. And then my father died, and I took and it wasn't published, and I took I should read proofs around the time we buried him, and I realized the book was meaningless. I had written into him, you know. Kind of, I wanted him to see me as I really was, something like that. So he was partly one of the reasons that I was writing, I think. Somehow. I don't know if he deserved all this attention I'm giving to him. I don't think so. But then, you know, you become a father yourself, and you have your father in mind all the time, you know, because it's such a major part of who you are.
Does your life deserve all this attention you're giving it?
No, well, I think that's the clue with this book, that it is an ordinary life. It's nothing exceptional. It's nothing exceptional going on, and I'm not an exceptional person. And everybody's life deserves this kind of attention, you know. And I have this idea of who I am, and then I started to write about it, and I see this kind of ocean of complexity and things going on, and the richness of it all, you know. I have this idea of who I was when I was 10, and then I start to write about it, and I can see what it was to be 10, you know, the sensation of being 10, and it's still inside of me, and I think it's only a matter of getting access to it, and you get that through literature, you know. That's where you can find it, and films, of course, but mostly literature.
Can get access?
Yeah, to yourself. There's kind of vast areas in yourself that you normally don't go, you know, but it's still there.
Did you keep a diary in your life?
I kept when I was in my early 20s, but I burnt it because I couldn't stand seeing myself, you know. And it's the same with with those books. I can't read them.
Yeah. Is the argument with in yourself, with your character, with your performance, with your reason for being?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, what's the you said you get up unhappy?
Yeah.
And this is about your life.
Yeah.
Is it about you don't like your character, who you are, your values? You don't like the fact that you haven't done something you might have wanted to do? Or is it about, where I find myself in relationships, in work, is all that?
Yeah, now there's a lot of things I like in my life, but this is about shame, and it's about
shame.
Shame, yeah. And there is some kind of Protestantic, moral or ethic in it somewhere, I believe, that you shouldn't think you are someone, you shouldn't think you are better than anyone else, and that's very deep-rooted in the Scandinavian culture. And if you have it like that, then shame is a very effective way of controlling, the society, which is a good thing. But then, if you get too much of it, it's kind of the shame gets its own life, which it has in me. So that's another reason for me being a writer. It's a way of escaping myself and escaping the shame.
Or a way of defining yourself.
No, I'm running away from myself in writing. In a way, that's.
I still don't understand what the shame is about.
No, I think it has to do with having no self-confidence and having no kind of rooted self. And I think that was something that is established in childhood. And I think I had a father that was very unpredictable and was very, very angry with me for no reason. And I kind of never know what was right, what was wrong, what I was doing. It was kind of everything was floating. And if you have that kind of background, it is you don't have any inner self, and you let yourself be managed by other people. What does he think of me? What does she think of me? What should I do according to her or to him? And that's how I live my life. I try to please everybody, except when I started to write this book. And then I didn't want to please anyone. I just wanted to write and be completely free, completely alone, completely by myself, away from all of this, away from society.
You write in the New York Times Magazine, working all the time is always a way to simplify life, to parry its demand, especially the demand to be happy.
Yeah, that sounds true, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why?
So that's why we work.
No, but that's an important reason to work, if you work very much. I mean, there is, of course, a pleasure in it, but it's not the world. I do work all the time, and...
Are you happy now?
I'm really not looking for happiness, but I have,
No, I'm not asking you to... okay.
No, but occasionally I'm happy, but...
That was not the intent of the book or your life, to be happy.
No, it's not. I mean...
What is the intent?
I want to raise my children functionally so they could, be able to manage their own lives without being damaged. Yeah. That's one thing I want. And the second thing I want is to write, incredibly, incredibly good novels. I mean, and that's impossible, but that's what I want to do. And that's much better than being happy.
What's that process of getting to where you can write?
That's... I think I think that the idea is that you should be free when you're writing. Nothing should restrict you whatsoever. And you have so many thoughts of what it is to write, and you have so many critical thoughts, and you have so many ideas, and you have to get all this away to enter a place where you just write. Easy, and then that's easy. And I think, reflections, thinking, I think that's kind of enormously overestimated in our culture, and I think there's so much what you feel and emotions and that level that's kind of ignored, more or less. And I think I'm completely when I write, I follow my intuition, and that's that could lead anywhere, of course, into stupidity also, but it still is a good guideline.
How much are you shaped by the country you're from?
I guess a lot. It's hard to see, but I think if you say this is a book about identity, it's where you're from, you know. That's very important. And I'm from this family, but then I'm from this nation and have this language. And I was born into that language and born into that culture, and I've learned everything in that context. So I think, of course, yes, Norway is a very important place for me. And I moved from there when I was 30, and I thought I should never go back. And I kind of disliked everything Norwegian, as you do when you come from a small country. And I lived in Sweden. And then this massacre occurred there. And I was pulled in, you know, with all my repertoires of feelings, and so were everybody else from Norway, I think. And I realized that's my identity, you know, that's where I'm from.
So you had to be there? Yeah.
It was a very strange experience. I never had it before, never had it since, but it's like all my attention was there. And it was the first time I felt this is home, it happened at home, you know.
Was that incident a catalyst for you?
I was, at least, it made me think a lot and write a lot. Everything surrounding that thing was interesting. And then I read this book by Åsne Seierstad, who wrote about it, and she calls it One of Us, you know, and that's basically it. He who did it is one of us. Yeah. But the thing was, he killed 69 by, you know, shooting them one by one in over an hour, you know, and it was truly massacre. I mean, and they were young. The youngest were. I mean, it was absolutely terrible.
Did you come to some understanding of that, how that could happen?
I think it's so many elements there, but I think it's nothing to do with politics whatsoever, and it's nothing to do with radicalism whatsoever. It's something else that's on stake.
Even though he attributed it to politics.
Yeah, I think that was just a way. Yeah, there's so many other people that have his opinion that doesn't do this. No, I can recognize who he is, where he comes from. I could identify with some of his feelings, but then it stops when he goes to that island. You can't understand that. And it's the same here with the school massacres, you know. How is it possible? It happens. How it is possible? How can our children or young men do such a thing? And Breivik, that was very interesting, because he when he was going through what he had done during the court, he didn't, you know, cry. It didn't affect him at all. But he was saying he was so surprised. There was a lot of people against the wall, and he was standing there going to shoot them, and they didn't move. And he said, on film they would have never run away, but they didn't. And he didn't know that he wasn't in a film. You know, it was kind of, it was like he was like in a game. He never realized that it was real people.
Why do you call this book authorial suicide?
I'll tell you. The plan was to empty everything I had. Shouldn't be nothing left, you know. So in book 6 I even...
So you were killing yourself by giving everything you had?
Yeah, in book 6 I even write down my, you know, ideas for future novels. So I thought I killed them, I can't use them. That was the plan. So I should, when I should start again, should be nothing, you know, I shouldn't have nothing. It should be all beginning from scratch. And it is also a kind of destructive thing to give everything in your life away.
But is there demand now to write another book that is about your life post-book?
Yeah, I got a lot of questions if I'm going to do it, but I will never do it. No. It's completely out of the question. If I'm going to write a novel, it should be completely different.
Nothing about this.
No.
Not the response to this. Not how you changed.
No.
Because it is looking deeply into your own soul that has made you successful.
Yeah, that's right. No, I'm not going there again. It's so hard to go there, and the costs are very high. So it's no.
Are you married?
Yeah.
And the mother of your children and all. What did she think?
I wrote about her and our story in book 2.
Right.
I gave it to her, and she was going away on a train, and she called me after 10 minutes saying, I don't like it, but it's okay. And then she called me again half an hour later, and was just saying, goodbye, romance. because it's very unromantic.
Goodbye romance.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
And then the third time she called and she was just crying. And she could come home and she said, we need to talk. And not about the book, but about our relationship. I think, so we didn't want to change anything. That was okay for her. But she wanted to change what was going on in our relationship. And the thing is that I'm completely honest in the book, but I can't be completely honest in a relationship. And that's impossible. That makes the relationship completely unbearable if you are. So you have to lie, or it's not lies, but you have to, to do those pretend things, to make it livable. And I didn't in that book, and that's the shock. That was a shock for her too. She knew I was thinking about these things, but if it's not said, then it's kind of possible to not think about or ignore, And but she accepted it, and now it's part of her life as well as mine. I may have destroyed her life too, I don't know.
The book is called My Struggle. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Congratulations on what it's become.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.